Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great day. So, my name's Matthew Whitlock. I have a few certifications with safety. I have my 385 Site Safety Health Officer certification, which is a 40-hour. I also have my OSHA 30-hour certification for construction health and safety. And I have some minor ones like H2S training and stuff like that. Today, we're going to talk about occupational health and safety and what the steps are for it. So, for our first slide today, we're going to be understanding occupational health and safety. We have hazard identification as one of the most important steps. We have risk assessment. When you find a hazard, you're going to assess that hazard, figure out how you might be able to mitigate the hazard and prevent it, implementing controls such as admin controls or elimination substitution controls, which we'll go over further later on too. For our next slide, we have regulatory compliance. We have to comply with multiple different organizations here in the US, such as OSHA. A lot of people also will comply with other countries' standards. Some employers like to exceed the standards, which is always a good thing. OSHA does have standards where you have to train and inspect, do certain inspections on different time frames. Generally, training will require an employee be trained for things every 12 months, and reminders. A lot of companies and organizations will do it sooner. For our next slide, we will do it. We're talking about risk management prevention. So you want to identify hazards. Generally, that will come from people reporting the hazard or your site safety officer or EHS personnel walking around and looking, observing the work, and they'll identify those hazards. And then they'll assess if there are actually issues and what the likelihood someone will get hurt doing this. If the likelihood is high enough, then you want to look at mitigating that hazard. What can be put into place, such as like maybe a light screen or some type of physical barrier, or something as simple as changing the procedure of how we do things. After you implement something, you want to monitor and make sure that thing is actually working, and you talk with those employees that are going to be in that field to make sure what you put in place is working correctly. And if there is any issues, what can you do to fix those issues? A lot of things can be solved with simple procedural things like changing your SOP. For common one is knives. If you use knives a lot in your facilities, having your employees change out their blades every day or maybe multiple times a day, because having a dull blade can cause an injury because you're putting a lot more force into that cut. For our next slide, we're going to look at the hierarchy of controls. The hierarchy of controls is kind of like what you can do to mitigate the risks. You have PPE at the lowest, which will also kind of fall into line with admin controls. Admin controls is pretty much anything that you're not physically doing, like a barrier or something like that. That won't be an admin control, but like SOPs to change procedures or requiring different PPE or requiring different certifications to get people more knowledge. All of those would be admin controls. And then you have engineering controls where it isolates the hazard. So like a physical barrier, a light screen, something along those lines would be considered an engineering control. Then you have substitution. We generally don't like doing anything above engineering controls because we don't want to remove stuff because it can really disrupt the flow of work. But you do have substitution. So, like if you have one machine and another machine, and one machine is has more safety features built into it, you might want to substitute using the other machine instead of the one with no safety. And then you have elimination, which is the highest level of isolation, where you're just removing that hazard fully, which sometimes has to be done, but we generally don't like doing it unless it needs to be done because we want to work on the lowest impact first. Next up, establishing a safety culture is one of the best things you can do for safety in a workplace. A good safety culture will result in good safety along the board. If your entry level employees don't care about safety, then what's going to make them follow procedures other than the threat of getting written up or terminated, which you can't have your eyes everywhere at all times. So it's a good idea having a safety culture, and that starts from the ground up. If your leadership doesn't believe safety is a very valuable asset, your entry level employees aren't going to care about safety. It's just how it is. And then having open communication and a good open door policy where people can report issues without any threat of retaliation is always an amazing tool to have. And accountability. If someone does mess something up and all of that, having that accountability, not necessarily a write up or termination, but talking to that person like, hey, you can't be doing this. Uh, Majority of the people in this field, we don't want to be writing people up for especially minor things, but sometimes it does have to be done. But generally, a talking to is more than sufficient. Next up, we're going to be talking about the cost. So, not following safety regulations and not having a good safety culture can really impact finances. You can get fines and penalties from OSHA if they do get reports of you doing something that's not safe. They may come out and inspect your facility. And if there are findings, you could get off with a warning, but you could also get off with a hefty fine. And they also have the power to be able to shut down businesses if it's a constant issue and the employer is not resolving it, they can take action. But even worse, you also have your reputation you can lose. There has been an upswing in people that when companies are treating their employees poorly, people will boycott those companies. We've seen it with a few different companies recently where that's happened. You don't want to risk your reputation. And then you have productivity. If one of your employees get injured, especially if you're on a production line, you're now having to slow down production or bring employees from elsewhere to be able to fill in for them if they're not at work. And you're also paying into work comp and all of that stuff. And we don't want to be doing that. We want people at work and we want them healthy and safe. And this goes back into a proactive safety culture. Being proactive is amazing. Having training sessions, especially very frequently, every 3, 6 months. At the facility I work at, we do it every month. We have a safety meeting where we talk about a common safety issue, whether it be something minor like slip, trips, and falls, or knife safety, or I'm up in North Dakota, so winter road safety we talk about too, and having your reporting system to be able to be proactive if employees see something. Them being able to report it anonymously if they want to is an amazing feature. And then recognition, a lot of companies do this where if they have some type of reporting system, they'll recognize people reporting things. Like the company I work for, put your name in a little pool, and if your name gets drawn for reporting a safety issue, that was resolved. You can get an extra $20 on your check, which is awesome. I don't expect every company to do that sort of thing. It can get costly, but it's a great thing. Even like a little shout out at a meeting, a lot of employees would like having some type of reward system, but not like a expensive reward system. Something minor is perfectly fine. Then this is the Penarch's triangle. It helps us determine the safety in a facility. So generally, for every 10 near misses, you're going to have roughly one minor injury. And of course, the goal is getting it down to zero, but that's a dream that most people have. Uh, Reality is normally it will not be zero unless no one's reporting anything. So something like this is pretty standard where you have 300 near misses, and out of that, 330 of them were minor injuries, which is perfectly acceptable. The only one that I would say that you should try your best to keep at zero is the major injuries. Those are ones where it resulted in a fatality or someone had to go to the hospital and they were out of work for a significant amount of time. And we never want to see that sort of thing. Majority of those are preventable to an extent if you have good hazard identification within your facility. Of course, not everything's preventable, but you should be able to cut down on that very well. And this is an amazing tool for a facility to have up. You can also post these on your safety boards in your facility so your employees know what's going on the safety side so they can stay in tune. And we also have technology. Technology has came so far, as most people in this group probably know. There's a lot of safety management systems now online that will track your reports for you, and it helps cut down on filing, helps keeps everything organized. There's also mobile reporting for your managers to use, which they really like because they don't have to write as much, don't have as much documentation in that sense. They just open up a file on their computer or pull out a tablet and fill it out with the employee who was injured or has a safety complaint, and then it gets emailed right off to you, and you can even possibly review it remotely. So you could take care of it right away. Then there's also VR training. I have some mixed feelings about it because it can provide a sense of what you need to do, but you don't get the actual feel for it, in my opinion, because like the weight of things and stuff like that. But it is a good idea to have. I imagine here soon it will probably be a lot better as the years progress. Integrating safety into a workplace. So generally, you start with assessing it, make sure everything's good, identify any type of issues, do multiple audits when you first get into a facility, kind of get the feel for everything, and then start planning, see what needs to be done if maybe the workplace culture is poor, implement like safety plans, like having a safety team to assist you is an amazing idea. Implement new protocols, new SOPs to be able to make the environment safer. And then always monitor. After implementing something, monitor everything. Make sure everything's going smoothly that you do put into place. And there's a bunch of benefits we've seen as incident rates decline, your productivity will improve because people aren't out of work as often for injuries. Overall culture will increase, which the mental health of employees will also kind of increase too because they're not as worried about getting hurt. And we, of course, want employees to want to come to work, which if you're not running a safe environment at work, the higher chance employees aren't going to want to be there. They may look for other employment, which will hurt your productivity. And then cost. It's not a hidden fact that running a safe environment at work, although it can cost a decent amount of money, it'll also save you a lot of money because you're not going to be paying as much for insurances. You're not going to be paying as much when someone gets hurt. So, our key takeaways today: prioritize safety as a culture value. Prioritizing safety is not hard to do. Generally, what I would recommend is keeping your head on a swivel. If you see something, say something. Even if it may not be a safety issue, if it looks like it may be unsafe or could result in a type of injury, notify your safety personnel. Let them know about it because if they don't know about it, how are they supposed to fix it? Whether that be through an ominous reporting or sending off an email or talking to them directly. And companies should take time to invest in safety programs. Having programs in place where employees can get training and can get questions answered is a very easy way to prevent a lot of injuries if people know how to do their thing correctly and engage. And as engagement, I don't mean the safety personnel's engaging with entry level employees, even though that's an amazing thing to do, but also your leaders, if you're in a factory, your factory manager, if you're in a corporate setting, whoever your boss is should also engage with you in safety to kind of enforce that safety culture. Because if you don't have that safety culture, it's not going to come by itself. And now we're at the Q and A's. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns?